He worked under car hoods every day for 12 years, oil-stained coveralls and calloused hands, just another small-town mechanic fixing transmissions and changing brake pads. Customers knew him as Eddie, the quiet guy who always got their cars running right. Until the night a military convoy broke down outside town with classified equipment. And Eddie's response revealed 18 years as a Special Forces vehicle specialist who'd kept combat units operational in the world's most dangerous places. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story of hidden military expertise and silent service, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you believe true warriors serve in unexpected ways, hit that subscribe button. Staff Sergeant Eddie Morales had been working at Miller's Auto Repair for exactly 12 years, 4 months, and 9 days. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., he'd unlock the garage bay doors, fire up the compressor, and prepare for another day of keeping the small town of Cedar Falls mobile. At 48, Eddie was the most experienced mechanic in the county. Customers drove from 3 towns over because everyone knew Eddie could fix anything with an engine. He never overcharged, never took shortcuts, and somehow always diagnosed problems that other mechanics missed. Eddie's got magic hands. Customers would say, "Bring him a dead engine, he'll make it purr like new." To the people of Cedar Falls, Eddie was just their reliable mechanic, a quiet man in oil-stained coveralls who worked alone, listened to classic rock, and always had their vehicles ready when promised. He never talked much about his past, never mentioned family, never complained about long hours or difficult repairs. What they didn't know was why Eddie could diagnose engine problems by sound alone, why he understood hydraulic systems with impossible precision, or why his tool organization looked more like military equipment layout than a typical garage setup. Eddie Morales wasn't just a small-town mechanic. From 1995 to 2013, he was Staff Sergeant Eduardo Morales, United States Army Special Forces, Motor Transport Specialist, for tours in Afghanistan, 3 in Iraq, to classified operations in locations he still couldn't discuss. His job: keep Special Forces vehicles operational in hostile territory where mechanical failure meant death. But Cedar Falls didn't need to know that. They just needed their cars fixed by someone they could trust. That was enough for Eddie. Thursday, October 3rd, started like every other day. Eddie arrived early, reviewed the work orders, and dove into a transmission rebuild that had been challenging other mechanics for weeks. By 6 p.m., most businesses in Cedar Falls were closed, but Eddie worked late. Perfectionist habits ingrained by military service where attention to detail kept soldiers alive. He was torquing the final bolts when he heard them multiple heavy vehicles approaching fast, engines straining, transmissions whining under load. Eddie's military instincts kicked in immediately. Those weren't civilian vehicles. Through the garage window, he watched a 3-vehicle military convoy pull into his parking lot. 2 Humvees and a heavy transport truck, all showing signs of mechanical stress. The lead vehicle's engine was smoking, the transport truck was leaking hydraulic fluid, and Eddie could hear transmission problems in all 3. A young sergeant approached the garage. "Sir, we need mechanical assistance. Our convoy's broken down, and we're carrying sensitive equipment that can't be delayed." Eddie wiped his hands on a shop rack, studying the vehicles with professional assessment that went far beyond civilian mechanical knowledge. "What's your timeline?" "Sergeant, critical delivery due 8:00 tomorrow. Can't call for military transport. This is classified cargo." Eddie examined the convoy with expertise that immediately caught the sergeant's attention. The way he assessed damage wasn't casual inspection, it was systematic military evaluation of operational capability. "Sergeant, what unit are you with? 10th Mountain Division." "Sir, transport specialists out of Fort Drum." Eddie nodded, understanding immediately. 10th Mountain carried equipment that couldn't afford delays or security compromises. "I can help. But first, tell me what you're really carrying." Sergeant Martinez hesitated, looking at the civilian mechanic who somehow spoke with military authority. "Sir, I can't discuss cargo specifics with civilians." Eddie opened his toolbox and pulled out something he hadn't touched in years: his old military ID and a worn Special Forces tab. Staff Sergeant Eduardo Morales, Special Forces Motor Transport, 18 years active duty, specialized in maintaining operational vehicles in hostile territory. Now, what are you carrying? Sergeant Martinez examined the credentials, his expression changing from suspicion to relief. Sir. Medical supplies for a field hospital and training exercise. Combat medic equipment. Surgical supplies. Lives depend on this reaching Fort Bragg by morning. Eddie understood immediately. Combat medic training couldn't be delayed. Real deployments waited for no one. All right, Sergeant. Here's the situation. Your lead Humvee has a blown head gasket. Transmissions overheating. Transport trucks got hydraulic failure and cooling system problems. Second Humvee's running rough but operational. Sir, how can you diagnose all that from here? Eddie's response revealed decades of battlefield experience. Sergeant. I've kept Special Forces units operational in places where the nearest repair facility was 1,000 miles away and under enemy fire. Your vehicles are talking to me. I just know their language. The young soldiers watched in amazement as Eddie began a systematic assessment of their convoy with professional expertise that rivaled military motor pools. Sir, one of the privates asked, you really worked on military vehicles? Son, I kept Humvees running through sandstorms in Iraq and mud seasons in Afghanistan. Fixed engines while taking sniper fire and replaced transmissions during rocket attacks. Your convoy's got problems, but nothing I haven't handled before. Eddie's approach to repairing the military convoy revealed training and experience that went far beyond civilian mechanics. He worked with systematic efficiency, prioritizing repairs by mission criticality, skills learned in combat zones where time meant the difference between mission success and failure. Sergeant Martinez, I need your crew to establish security perimeter while I work. This isn't just about mechanical problems. You're carrying sensitive cargo in a civilian area. Sir, you understand operational security. Sergeant, I've repaired vehicles carrying classified equipment in hostile territory. Security protocols are part of the job. Eddie began with the transport truck, attacking the hydraulic failure with precision that amazed the military drivers. His diagnostic approach was systematic, methodical, and faster than anything they'd seen from civilian mechanics. Private Johnson, Eddie called to one of the soldiers, hand me that hydraulic coupling wrench, the metric one, not standard. Sir, how did you know which wrench I was reaching for, son? After 18 years of field repairs, you learn to work by sound and intuition. Your hydraulic system's telling me exactly what it needs. As Eddie worked, the soldiers realized they weren't watching a civilian mechanic helping out. They were watching a military professional whose expertise had been honed in the world's most demanding convoys. The repair work revealed Eddie's deep understanding of military vehicle systems, operational requirements, and the kind of field improvisation that kept units mobile when standard repair facilities weren't available. Sir, Sergeant Martinez observed, you're not just fixing these vehicles, you're modifying them for better performance. Sergeant, in Special Forces, we learned that standard repair means fixing the immediate problem. Combat repair means making sure the problem doesn't happen again during the mission. As Eddie worked through the night, his military background became increasingly apparent to the convoy crew. His organization, communication style, and technical expertise all reflected special operations training. Private Stevens, monitor that coolant temperature while I replace the water pump. Call out every degree change. Sir, yes sir. And Stevens, in civilian life, it's just Eddie. But tonight, we're completing a mission. The young private grinned. Roger that, Eddie. Eddie's repair of the lead Humvee required techniques learned in combat zones where parts weren't available and improvisation was survival. He fabricated gaskets, rewired electrical systems, and optimized engine performance using methods that impressed even experienced military mechanics. Sir, Private Johnson asked, where did you learn to modify engines like this? Son, when your convoy's stuck in hostile territory and the nearest supply depot is a week away, you learn to make things work with whatever's available. Afghanistan taught me that every vehicle's got redundant systems if you know where to look. As the repairs progressed, Sergeant Martinez realized they were working with someone whose battlefield experience exceeded his own. Eddie, how many combat deployments did you do? 7 total. Afghanistan, Iraq, couple places I can't discuss. Specialized in keeping special forces units mobile in areas where breaking down meant not coming home. Sir, what made you become a civilian mechanic? Eddie paused in his work, considering the question. Sergeant, after 18 years of fixing vehicles so soldiers could complete dangerous missions, I wanted to fix vehicles so families could get to work safely. Same skills, different purpose. By 2 a.m., Eddie had 2 vehicles operational and was working on the final Humvee transmission. His systematic approach to the repairs had impressed the military crew. But more than that, they'd watched him work with the kind of calm professionalism that only came from extensive combat experience. Sergeant Martinez, Eddie called out. Test the hydraulics on the transport truck. Full pressure. All systems. All systems green. Eddie, this truck's running better than it did when we left Fort Drum. That's the idea. Military vehicles are built for reliability, but they perform best when someone who understands their systems optimizes them. The final Humvee required transmission work that would have challenged most military mechanics. Eddie approached it with expertise that revealed deep understanding of combat vehicle requirements. Private Johnson, this transmission's been modified for heavy load carrying. Someone in your motor pool knows what they're doing, sir. That's our heavy weapons platform. Carries extra equipment. I figured. The gear ratios are optimized for weight, not speed. Good engineering. As Eddie completed the transmission repair, he made additional modifications that improved the vehicle's operational capability. Eddie, Sergeant Martinez observed, you're not just fixing our convoy, you're upgrading it, Sergeant. In Special Forces, we learned that field repairs should leave vehicles better than factory condition. You never know when you'll need that extra reliability. As dawn approached and all 3 vehicles ran perfectly, Sergeant Martinez approached Eddie with growing respect for the civilian mechanic who'd revealed himself to be a military professional. Eddie, I have to ask, what was your specialty in Special Forces? Motor transport. But cross-trained in everything. Combat engineer, communications, some medical training. Special Forces teaches you to be whatever the mission needs. Sir, what operations did you support? Eddie's answer revealed the depth of his military experience. Mountain operations in Afghanistan, desert transport in Iraq, classified missions I still can't discuss. My job was keeping Special Forces units mobile regardless of terrain, weather, or enemy action. Private Stevens, who'd been helping with repairs all night, finally understood what he'd been witnessing. Eddie, you've been treating this like a combat mission, haven't you? Stevens, classified cargo, timeline pressure, operational requirements. This is a mission. Different country, same stakes. As the convoy prepared to depart, the soldiers realized they'd been working with someone whose military service had prepared him for exactly this situation. Sergeant Martinez extended his hand. Staff Sergeant Morales, thank you for completing our mission. Eddie shook hands with each soldier. Gentlemen, it was an honor to work with 10th Mountain. Get that medical equipment to Fort Bragg safely. After the military convoy departed at 6 a.m., Eddie cleaned his tools and opened Miller's Auto Repair for another normal day. But something had changed for 12 hours. He'd been Staff Sergeant Morales again, using skills forged in combat zones to complete a mission that mattered. At 8 a.m., his first civilian customer arrived, Mrs. Henderson, needing an oil change before driving to visit her grandchildren. Morning, Eddie. You look tired. Long night. Just worked late on a difficult repair. Mrs. Henderson, your car will be ready in an hour. As Eddie performed routine maintenance on Mrs. Henderson's sedan, he reflected on the previous night. 18 years of Special Forces training had never left him. It had just been waiting for the right moment to serve again. His phone buzzed with a text from Sergeant Martinez. All cargo delivered on time. Medical training proceeding as scheduled. Thank you for mission success. Eddie smiled and deleted the message. Cedar Falls didn't need to know that their quiet mechanic had helped complete a classified military operation. They just needed their cars fixed safely and reliably. But for one night, Eddie Morales had been Staff Sergeant Morales again. serving his country by ensuring critical medical supplies reach their destination. The skills never fade. The commitment never ends, it just finds new ways to serve. Over the following weeks, Eddie returned to his routine of civilian automotive repair. But the night with the military convoy had reminded him of something he'd forgotten: the satisfaction of using expert skills for missions that truly mattered. A month later, a different military unit experienced mechanical problems near Cedar Falls. Word had spread through military channels about a civilian mechanic who'd helped 10th Mountain complete a critical mission. Captain Rodriguez arrived at Miller's Auto Repair with a broken-down transport carrying communication equipment for a joint training exercise. "Are you Eddie Morales?" Staff Sergeant Martinez said. "You might be able to help with military vehicle repairs." Eddie looked at the captain's transport truck, then at his afternoon appointments with civilian vehicles. "Captain, what's your timeline?" "Critical communication equipment due at Fort Campbell by 1800. Exercise can't proceed without it." Eddie's military instincts engaged immediately. "I can help. But this stays between us. I'm a civilian mechanic now." "Understood, Staff Sergeant." "Just Eddie." "Captain." As Eddie diagnosed and repaired the military transport, Captain Rodriguez realized he was working with someone whose expertise exceeded most military mechanics. "Eddie." Martinez said. "You were Special Forces motor transport. What else should I know, Captain?" "I kept Special Forces units operational in places where mechanical failure meant mission failure. Your communication equipment will reach Fort Campbell on time." Word continued to spread through military channels about the civilian mechanic in Cedar Falls who could handle military vehicle repairs with special operations expertise. Eddie never advertised these capabilities, never sought military contracts. But when units had critical needs, they found their way to Miller's Auto Repair. Eddie established an unofficial policy: civilian customers during business hours, military emergencies after hours. No charge for military repairs, just his way of continuing service to units that defended the country. Local customers began noticing subtle changes in Eddie's garage: better organization, more sophisticated diagnostic equipment, tool arrangements that seemed almost military in precision. Eddie, his regular customer Tom Martinez, observed, "Your garage looks different lately. More professional." "Just upgrading equipment, Tom. Trying to provide better service." But Eddie's military customers understood what Tom couldn't see: the garage had been optimized for rapid response to critical mechanical failures. The kind of setup that could handle combat vehicle repairs in austere conditions. 2 years after the first convoy repair, Colonel Davidson from the Army's Transportation Command visited Eddie personally. "Staff Sergeant Morales, I've received reports about your assistance to multiple military units, an official support that's enhanced readiness and mission capability, Colonel. I'm just a civilian mechanic helping when I can." "Eddie, you've provided critical support to classified missions, training exercises, and operational units. The Army would like to offer you a civilian contractor position." Eddie considered the offer carefully. "Colonel, I appreciate the recognition, but I serve this community now. Military units know they can find me when they need help, but Cedar Falls is my primary mission." Colonel Davidson understood. "Staff Sergeant, some of the best service happens quietly, in places people don't expect. Thank you for continuing to serve." 5 years after leaving active duty, Eddie Morales continues working at Miller's Auto Repair to Cedar Falls. He's still their reliable mechanic who keeps their vehicles running safely and affordably. 2. Military units in the region. He's Staff Sergeant Morales, the Special Forces veteran whose garage has become an unofficial support facility for critical missions. Eddie never talks about the military vehicles he repairs after hours, never mentions the classified equipment he's helped transport, never discusses the missions his mechanical expertise has enabled. When civilian customers ask about military experience, he gives the same answer: "Served my time. Now I serve the community." But sometimes, late at night when military convoys pull into his parking lot with urgent mechanical problems, Eddie becomes Staff Sergeant Morales again, using 18 years of Special Forces training to keep critical missions operational. The garage holds tools for both missions now: civilian automotive repair and military vehicle support. Different customers, different requirements, but the same commitment to excellence that was forged in combat zones where mechanical failure meant mission failure. Eddie Morales proves that military service doesn't end with retirement, it just finds new ways to serve. His garage represents the thousands of veterans who continue serving their communities and their country through civilian careers that utilize military expertise when it's most needed. So I ask you, have you ever met a veteran whose military background made them exceptional in civilian life? Someone whose service continued in ways you didn't expect? Share their story in the comments. Because at the Human Stories, we believe the greatest service often happens quietly, in small towns and civilian jobs, by veterans who never stop serving their country and their communities. Subscribe if you believe military expertise enhances civilian service. Share if you've worked with veterans whose background made them extraordinary. And remember, next time you visit a small town mechanic, look twice. They might be much more than they appear.